Thanks for coming. And interesting time. It seems like every time I go away or we work on something, there's something in the markets that happens. There's something news stories that happens, and it's not always bad, but it can be bad. And of course, the whole story probably with MetaMask potentially tracking IP addresses. So there's been a little bit of back and forth. Are they really tracking? Are they not? If you read the privacy policy from Consensus, they can definitely store the IP addresses. They claim that they're not going to share it. They claim it was not done in response to any sort of regulatory requests or issues. I mean, I have my own opinion. I'm not so sure it's actually true, but the bottom line is in Fura, which is where most of the RPC endpoints, those are nodes. So those are the nodes, obviously, that keep the full transaction history of the blockchain, not validators. They are, the majority of them are run by Infura, who is supposedly going to be the one storing the IP address information. Whether they share it is the debate, but the debate is not them storing it. They are going to be storing it. So that's part of the concern, and that's actually part of why suddenly last night some of you saw the pop-up restriction on Radio Shack, that all of a sudden, hey, all these countries are restricted, including the United States. I'm like, what? What's going on? Radio Shack, to my knowledge, hasn't put out an official statement yet. I'm suggesting that they do, so we'll see if they do. But that's kind of the story at the moment. It is in response to that news, just so you know. They're being ultra conservative on it. Very conservative, if I may say. So, I mean, this is just a time to mention, we play in the blockchain distributed ledger technology world. And obviously that means you have public ledgers and all of the decentralized technology that we love, but your security is still paramount, and your security locally on your machine, your phone, your tablet, your network is still up to you. It's the reason why if you get hacked, nobody can help you, because it is decentralized. There is no central entity to help you. So when it comes to that, your security is important. VPNs and things like that can significantly help your security, I think. And I know Gavin would probably agree with me. We both come from the world of IT. I was a systems analyst for many years, and I can tell you that VPNs, the marketing can be very gimmicky in many instances, but they're very legitimate in other instances. So a VPN can really help you in a lot of instances with your security and tunneling your traffic through other locations and things of that nature. At the moment, we're trying to figure out with Radio Shack, is it a short-term thing, a long-term thing? What's the plan? I don't have any news on that at the moment, but that's really the best that I can give you at this time. Of course, if any connections come from countries not listed in that list, they will function just fine. So I will just throw that out there as well. But that's kind of the story at the moment. So I'll continue updating you guys as soon as I hear more from them on that. So we do have some questions here. We also have some, I think they're big announcements that will be coming towards the end of the AMA. And I would recommend and suggest you stay tuned for that, because they are not small announcements. They're really big, great things. So, but you guys did submit some awesome questions, and we have those written down here. And how about, I'm going to ask you some questions, Gavin. You cool with that?
Fire away.
All right. Well, Marcus Riggs had asked whether we plan on defending $100 moving forward. What do you say to that?
We will cover this towards the tail end for anybody that sticks around with some of the services that we're going to announce and some of the partnerships that we have. You'll see why the $100 price point is something that we don't think is too far off the horizon. But again, that'll be completely dependent upon how we value proposition our services and how the community reacts to them. The coin price is a reflection of consumer confidence, ultimately.
Yeah, well said. And actually, I think the audio was kind of cut out there. It wasn't recording. My audio was recording, but yours was not, and I literally just enabled it or unmuted it at the end. So I'm just going to repeat what you essentially said for
The
those who
greatest
watched.
story ever told, never to be repeated.
It'll be in the movie, right? Well, we actually joke about that because there probably will be a movie or some sort of function to tell the story later on because it's actually quite a story. But nonetheless, I digress. So what Gavin is essentially saying is there are a couple of ways you can defend a price point. You could just throw cash in. That's one way to do it, right? Or you could look at it from the perspective of how do I just give you more value so that I make it so that you would rather not sell, right? There's two different ways of looking at this. I like giving value personally, and that doesn't mean buybacks are stopping, by the way, but you can still do regular scheduled buybacks, but then create more value that you don't actually have to use the cash to prop up a specific price. It kind of just happens on its own, and the buybacks are just a function of regular buying back token, like a lot of projects would do if they, only made money to do it. So being able to create the value for me, I like that option significantly greater only because it means that you guys are the recipients of something better than you had before. Okay, so that's just me repeating the answer again because the audio did get cut off there, but it looks like we're good moving forward. Anything else to add on to that, Gavin, before we move on?
Negative.
Yeah, I just want to mention, guys, a lot of crypto project AMAs, they go on and they go on and they go on. 2 hours later, you're still in the AMA. I don't know about you. Most people don't have 2 hours to sit around and listen to me ramble on or anyone ramble on. And I've been guilty of doing that. So just like my last AMA that I pre-recorded, I kept it really, really short. It was like 20 minutes. We're going to try to do that today and try to do that moving forward with these. We'll probably also, as we do these, do a little mix. It'll be pre-recorded, some live streaming, just some on video, some audio, just to mix it up a little bit. And it'll just really be on an as-needed basis. I think scheduling AMAs on the same day every week, it does get super redundant at some point. So I just want to mention that we're going to try to keep this tight so that you go back and watch this. You can easily get through it without having to, listen for 2 hours. So the second question, it was written in the Prime chat, and it's been 30 days since someone had deposited into the blue chip, and the ability to claim is grayed out. When will the pool members be able to withdraw? So that's going to be live in a few days. Apologize on that. Obviously, the arbitrage nonsense had really set us back a little bit. So that was a function of you can't withdraw until 30 days anyway, right? So now that 30 days just recently hit, we were a little bit behind on that and apologize. There was just, a lot of different things going on that kind of set us back on that. That will be out in the next few days. As a matter of fact, Brad's working on that right now. I know he's in here listening. He's probably eyes lit up as soon as I said his name. But no, I know he's actually literally working on that right now. He sent me screenshots of some stuff he's doing. So anything you want to add to that, Gavin?
I'm just thinking if I give a date, if it's going to make Brad upset or work harder. No, I think you pretty much covered it.
A little bit both, maybe. It's okay. No worries. He's working hard enough. Matter of fact, Brad doesn't even sleep. I actually said to him jokingly earlier, I said, with my baby, I'm now on your schedule. I don't know how you do it. So I guess you just get used to it after a while. Yeah, that'll be out in the next few days, guys. So no worries on that.
Well, I guess if you twist my arm, I will add one thing, just as a general reminder to everybody that when you go to withdraw, I want to remind everybody that there is the 28-day drawdown period, as well as the fact that the principal amount that was initially invested, that's in a 90-day lockup, okay? So you can't pull your principal out for 90 days, but you can pull all your profits out each month if you want to. So there's about a 30-day differential if you add the days up between when you pull out your first profits and when you're able to pull your principal out.
Yeah, and that goes for all the services, by the way, and that's just a good reminder. I mean, you want to cash flow without worrying about token price. I mean, here's how you do it. You deposit your tokens into one of the services like the HFT, for example. Okay, you wait 30 days for the withdrawal to appear. That'll be done in the next couple of days. You hit the withdraw. It takes 30 days to get it into your wallet, but once it arrives in your wallet, you can literally click that withdraw button again, and then essentially you have the situation where every 30 days, you're just getting USD coin in your wallet. I mean, there's your cash flow without you ever having to worry about the token price. So just want to remind people of that. It's kind of like it's so new in the space that if you haven't had utility like that before, it's kind of like, well, how do I cash flow? I got to sell a token. Well, there's another way to do it, but it just hasn't been available. So just want to make mention of that. What happens if the 10% and the 15% HFT pools make more profit in a single month from Richie Beast 1? Is that revenue for Zeta, Gavin? Or what happens with that?
So what we do is we take those excess amounts, and what we do is we create more pools with them that goes to our profits wallet, which goes back into the ecosystem. So when I said before, the more assets under management, the more pools that get filled are the more pools that we'll be able to create. So now that we've sort of equaled the upper a little bit and lowered that barrier to entry to 10 plus zones, we're seeing that now we're able to create more pools than we did before. Those that were fortunate enough to be in the 75 plus pools, you're probably wondering why we're able to release more pools now than we did. Sometimes those folks would go days without seeing a new pool get opened, and now we seem to have pools opening every other day. As we progress and mature as a project, we're going to see those pools be more and more continuous. Our goal is to have them open 24/7. You should have more pools than you know what to do with, Lord willing.
Exactly. Well, that reminds me of what I was mentioning in the Prime chat a few weeks back. I said, how could we have pools open all the time? And then, of course, led into a lot of different conversations in the Prime chat you guys are aware of. But that's the point. I mean, remember, guys, more revenue in means more pools on a more frequent basis. So always keep that in mind. If you ever see a cap, that's the excess is always going to go to business operations, ultimately going back to the community. So just to kind of keep that in mind. So Half Century Mark asks a question. He says, will there be a cap on how much money can be put into the HFTs? HFT pools at 30% if left untouched for 3 years would be around $4.5 million. If 100 people did it, it'd be about $500 million. Can we trade that amount? There's no cap, but I will say, there's a reason why, and this question has been brought up a number of times. Like, if you can make those returns, wouldn't you be like a trillionaire? No, because there's something called risk management. When you ask anybody that gets to a certain level, I'm not at that level, okay? So I'm not like I'm speaking from experience. But I'm saying if you get, you ask people to get to a certain level, they're going to tell you don't put that much into a single investment vehicle. That'd be kind of like, you're worth $20 million. You put 19 million and a half of it into Bitcoin at 8K. If Bitcoin ever gets to 8K, I mean, gosh, yeah, you could do it, but boy, I mean, you are really putting all your chips on the table. And I would tell you, if you were at that level, your risk management becomes far more significant. And so that's why you don't see people doing that. So I bring that up because, yes, it can be traded. $500 million can be traded, but it's not going to be in a single account. It'll be broken up into many different accounts, and the risk management is going to be significantly modified as opposed to trading, say, $4, $5, $6 million. So it can be done. It's just the strategy changes slightly there. So good question, though. Good question. Any update on the Gaxis website, Skibbity? Not even just Skibbity, is actually a lot of people asking that. Yeah, actually, so currently the week of December 5th, that is when the new website for Gaxis plans to be up and live. Again, I've mentioned this a few times. I'll just mention it again. It's worth mentioning. Gaxis is a private wealth management firm. They're not out actively getting customers, for example, okay, as opposed to one of your local financial institutions and things like that are actively trying to, they have a customer acquisition cost, right? That's not Gaxis. They're a private wealth management firm. So the website's not like at the top of the priority list, but I am happy to let you know the week of December 5th is when that is planned to be up and live. So let you know more about that. By the way, also, this is a good time to mention anything mentioned here in the AMA of like big importance, especially the stuff at the end. Announcements, I'll be posting stuff because I do know we have people that can't hear. Like literally, they actually can't hear. So there'll be text and transcripts. Cat with Hands does a wonderful job with that, as always. And various announcements will be made. So when will the audit report be coming out for the passing quarter? Cross Blitz asks. Gavin?
So unfortunately, we still don't have a definite answer on that. What happens is that the audit that's being done is done on the Zeta sub account, but it's still done via the Gaxis annual quarter. So anyone that's ever done actuary work, you know that different companies have different fiscal quarters. Unfortunately, I haven't had a direct answer yet on what the fiscal quarter is for Gaxies. I do know that when they did their last quarterly update, there was only 30 days of the Zeta Capital Fund assets under management on there, and we didn't. And with the way that it correlated with our being active, we had been active for almost 30 days. So we didn't want it to look like in the last 90 days or the first 90 days of being a fund that we had only done the first 30 days worth of numbers. So if I were to be a betting man, which I don't, I would say probably looking at Q1 physical year 2023, maybe January or February timeframe. And that'll include a good 45 days plus of solid Zeta Capital Fund working with our existing algorithms used.
It reminds me of when I was doing government work. Their fiscal year, where I was at least anyway, used to end in July, and I always thought that was really strange. It's the way it happened to work out. So they were all trying to like make their purchases at the end of July to get that budget usage. It's kind of like the same thing. It is different companies have different fiscal quarters at different times of the year. So that's essentially what Gavin is referring to there.
Correct, and it is a very niche thing, but for people who have been in programmatic accounting, you'll know that sometimes every 7 years or so, you can always change your fiscal year, and you can actually end up gaining cycles and scooping and sweeping funds. It's a way to make money appear magically sometimes into a bucket.
What about marketing?
A funding bucket, sorry.
Yeah, what about marketing? Oromis 87. I'm probably saying that wrong. Asked a question.
Oromis 87. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal that in my next Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Thank you, Oromis.
Because you have so much time for that. But then you're playing the market Zeta. Oh, what are we doing with marketing, Gavin?
This is where I have to be very careful because CMO has been very specific about what they plan to do. We have engaged multiple. I'm sorry, can you still hear me? So what we've done is we've engaged multiple firms. The issue we have found is that some people don't know how to market different things in the crypto space. And that's not a knock on any of the firms that we've engaged, but some folks want to approach us like an NFT, but we're not an NFT product. So the people they're trying to source us to in the sample groups, they're not responding. We're not exactly a traditional NAS because people are wondering why we don't have RCP endpoints. Then we have to try to explain. So that becomes a cost of acquiring new users. We have to try to explain, okay, well, we use the NAS model as a fundraising mechanism, but the way that we are turning over capital is the same as we would do in traditional finance without fencing, right? So then they start to get it. The problem is it's just difficult to find somebody, one, that you trust. To be quite frank, I've seen what happens when you go to a marketing firm, and if there isn't... we want to be very careful with everything that we put out, right? We want to make sure that whomever we're working with understands the spirit of what we're trying to do, the way that we're trying to be change agents in this space, and make sure that we can work with groups of people who already understand what we're doing. In fact, to be honest, we have found more success in marketing with just talking to other projects that have kind of been around the block. I'll name drop real quick. Talking to Loki, for example, from Thor Finance. Those guys have been through it. For better or for worse, they went through this entire year, right? So what I can tell you is that by running one of these projects, there are things that happen that you don't predict on the whiteboard in the initial planning sessions. So talking to folks like that, I think we're learning a lot more about target acquisition, how to predict the growth and S-curve cycles in token emissions. I'll go so far as to say that they've been a bit of they've been sort of like a good business mentor. Just going forward, helping us predict some things that would happen, and the math has sort of played out the way they said. And because we listen, we've been able to recover. For example, with the liquidity issue we had with the arbitrage bot, part of the steps we took to recover from that were from lessons learned from other projects that had those issues happen. I won't name them, but some of you listening, thank you. I'll just say thank you. I won't name drop you. I apologize. Feel free to send me a nasty gram saying, oh, you could have name dropped us. But to all the projects that reached out and said, hey, we actually had this happen. Do you want help? And we said, yes, thank you for your help. Because of you, our entire community's rocking and rolling, and we're almost back to 100%.
Yeah. So you should see something in the next few weeks to kind of be more specific. But
people will know who we are soon, and the people that will know who we are people who know what we're doing.
Who's Zeta? So it's still a fairly small community. I mean, I'm looking at the left side, and it's a little over 1,000 people still. That's small in terms of discords, by the way. That's really small. You see a lot of discords.
Smallest is the mightiest. Let it
It's
be
like
known.
the story of the Spartans. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no, you'll see something in the next few weeks in terms of marketing, press releases, things like that, and we'll be rock and rolling on something here very soon. I like doing things right, not just doing them. And so having all of the services out, having some of the things we're going to talk about at the very end here out, will make that marketing far more effective, right? Because if you're going to get eyeballs on something, you want to have that full offering that you're showing them. It's okay to have some things coming, and that's okay. But there's obviously 80-20 things that I think are really important to have available and ready. As you know, I like to play by the 80-20 rule. And we just got a few more of those coming out. So that's why some of the marketing is being worked on. You'll be seeing something in the next few weeks. And yes, of course, I mean, I've always stayed friends with Nylok, Loki, from Thor. He's a really cool guy. Never had a problem with him, ever. He's just a really cool guy. So yeah, we've been talking to Thor about a lot of different things with Zeta Capital. So thank you, Gavin, for that. One of the last questions we'll get into is, would we consider members becoming part of Prime just by hitting a certain number of zones? Rob asked. Nothing that I'm willing to say at the moment. Prime is still sort of an exclusive club of the folks who were here early. So I want to kind of keep that ethos and understanding about that. So I can't say right now I'm willing to just let people in because I have a certain number of zones just yet. But it doesn't mean we won't. So let's kind of wait and see how that plays out. But I don't have anything really to say at the moment on that. But what are we working on, Gab? I know we got a few things going on. We've got stuff we're working on. Obviously, you guys know about private equity. That's an obvious one, right? Things like accelerators. That's an obvious one. You know about it. What about some of the things people don't know about? I mean, it's kind of interesting. I've been teasing for weeks that we have things people don't know about, and it's not like some weird marketing gimmick. It's literally there's things we're working on that we don't always have 100% of the details on at the moment, but I kind of want to be like, hey, there's stuff that you guys don't know about. That's like literally my point in saying that. It's not to create some artificial sort of hype thing. It's literally we have things that you guys don't know about so that you know that what you see is not all that there is, right? So some of those things we did want to discuss today. Gavin, what are we working on? Why don't you share a little bit with the people? They want to know.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, just to sort of piggyback on what you were saying, we also listen to people, right? It's sort of like an episode of Kitchen Nightmares, right? Right? You get these restaurant owners who go, "I make the best hamburgers ever," and nobody's eating them. Well, Principal Skinner, is it me? No, the kids who are wrong. So we hear you. Again, everyone votes with their dollars, so to speak. So the Prime chat has been invaluable. The Zeta chat and even the general chat. So what we do is we take some of these ideas and we sort of throw them back and forth on the back end, and we say, hey, you know what? Well, if we wanted to do something like this is what people want. This is the end state. With everything that we're still working on, how could we get from here to there, leveraging what we already have? And what we do is we find these really clever ways in order to offer services and utilities that we feel are allowing people to get to more zones or to get to more coins or to get to, quite frankly, a fiat dollar value they're trying to get to, right? Everybody wants their coins to be reflective of a certain dollar value at a certain point, whether that's putting them into the financial services, throwing them into a Zeta Lake, for example, we'll get to that later, or just creating more zones. So when we first started, the crypto ecosystem, the entire crypto sphere was completely different than it is right now. I mean, we were in crypto fall. We're a full-blown crypto winter now. So when we launched, we had a certain price point. We launched at a pre-sale price of $75, and then we committed to defending the $100 price point until our financial services were out. Well, even at $100, it's easy to say, well, this is this is definitely worth $100. We didn't choose that number arbitrarily. When we looked at the amount of coins that we emitted, when we looked at our cycle, when we looked at our starting base, we had Tarek and Tyler run the numbers. These guys came up and said, this is the value of the coin that we could defend and we could anticipate at a certain zone level with the depreciation of the zones, the self-pruning functions, yada, yada, yada. So we came up with that number, and the idea was this is what a zone is worth. At the end of the day, with the services being offered, this is what it's worth, and this is what can be maintained. However, that sounds great, but ultimately in sales, we all know that nothing is worth anything except for what somebody's willing to buy it for. And in this market, the $100 coin price is very difficult for certain people to get in. I'm not the kind of person that likes to move the goalpost, and I'm not the kind of person that likes to take a person's money and then say, oh, you know what? I know you had to pay this in order to get it, but I need more people to come in. So we need these folks to be able to get in a lower price point. So we just lower everything. So with that being said, what Zeta Capital has done is we've created a bit of a little brother program. Okay, they're called microzones and nano zones. So the idea is that you'll be able to go in and for a flat USDC value, 500 USDC for a micro zone, 250 USDC for a nano zone, you'll be able to purchase a micro and a nano zone. These all have the same $15 USDC membership monthly. They have the same $5 claim fee with a variable rate depending on the value of the token. They will emit the Zeta 3 TA token, the Zeta token, the same Zeta token that a zone emits. Now, here's the question. Are these going to count towards financial services? They will, but the services will be a little bit different. Again, we can't offer the exact same thing, but we are trying to do is allow the option for people who can't afford a zone to eventually be able to get there. So what does that mean? That means we're not supposed to call them kiddie pools. I'm sorry. CMO is going to get mad at me. But what we're going to do is have these micro pools. What's a micro pool? If a micro zone is exactly half and a nano zone is exactly a quarter, then a micro pool and a nano pool would be a quarter and a half of a regular pool. So the idea is that somebody could come into the Zeta ecosystem, want to try it out. They can only afford a micro zone. They purchase the micro zone for a flat USDC rate. Then they emit their coins. They put those into the services. They put them into the same HFT pools that you put them into at a smaller truncated rate. They can get up to 5%. Okay, up to 5% a month of the principal they put in their Zeta coin. That's the general idea behind micro zones and nano zones. And of course, like we said, this is one of the things that hadn't been brought to the community yet. However, when you pair this with what was already designed and teased a little bit with the accelerators, you'll see that a person could come into the Zeta ecosystem, work through the system, be able to test it out, be able to taste some of the profits, be what's the word I'm looking for? You know, they could be excited enough to go and want to matriculate into the regular zone system, but it's tough if you're emitting half the amount of coins. Well, that's where the accelerators come in. You apply your accelerators, and now somebody who believes in the system is able to more easily, at no cost to any other member, be able to matriculate from a nano to a micro, from a micro to a regular zone, and they become Zetarians like the rest of us. And as alluded to earlier, maybe one day we can all be Prime.
Exactly.
Next one.
Oh, well, I'll just not to take away, but add on to it. I've been saying this a lot lately, and it's because I want to reiterate the vision of what Zeta was for. You know, anybody can come into the space and make another, some people call it Ponzi, whatever. I mean, whatever word you want to use, I don't care. But you can make another circular reward sort of system with no utility, with the only thing you can do is sell the token. And that's it. Maybe you have an NFT, it boosts it. That's about it. There's really nothing beyond that. Anybody can do that, but not everybody can have something better than selling, right? So, you know, thinking about that more and what the vision is, which is to bring that utility to as many people as possible, that's what kind of evolved into lowering the HFT down to 10 zones, and of course 25 to 74, was to grant that access at a greater scale to a wider audience, which is, again, in line with that mission. Microzones and nanozones are essentially the same thing because, you know, what I just described is great if you can afford 10 zones or 20 or 30 or 40, or you have the ability and time to compound into that. But what if you don't? What if half of that is all you can afford? What if a quarter of that is all you can afford? That's where the microzones do come into play, is because it, again, allows a wider audience to participate and get exposure to a lot of this utility that just isn't available anywhere else. So it's all in line with getting that utility in front of as many people as possible and opening up that opportunity and that chance for everybody to get into that as much as possible. So the microzones accomplish that. And some people would say, well, aren't the microzones going to break the math? No, because we're going down in the math. We're not going up. If you go down, you establish a top layer of 10 or 0.1, I should say. If you go down from that, you don't break anything in the emissions. The emissions are perfectly safe below that, so long as other pieces are in line. And the Zeta Capital ecosystem is sort of like a timepiece, not a watch, but a timepiece, where intricate parts correlate with each other, and you don't want to break it. So this doesn't break anything. It just opens up more opportunity for more people, essentially, is what it does. Helps the ecosystem and ultimately helps the community get more access, which is our goal and our mission. Not just a token, but access to something better than a token, right? I'd also like to mention, there is a lot of talk about selling. For example, selling a token, when to sell, how to sell. I've made a video on selling. Can't make anybody sell in a certain way. There's ways to do it. There's ways not to do it. At the end of the day, part of the decentralization of DeFi is that users can ultimately kind of choose what they want to do, right? You can present options and they take them or they don't take them. Essentially the path. But giving multiple paths and multiple journeys is, I think, essential and crucial so that you can make the determination of what you want to do. I mean, imagine if you went into a restaurant and the only thing was on the menu was one hamburger. That's it. There's no fries. There's no drinks. There's no shakes. There's no salads. There's nothing. It's just, you probably wouldn't go there, right? I mean, people who really like hamburgers would go there, I guess. But, there's no buffet of options, right? So what if there was sort of a way to sell, right, to somebody who was looking to buy, but you didn't impact the token price? What if there was a way to kind of do that and still kind of lessen the impact of what sales would do? So that's why we are going to be coming out very shortly with an OTC mechanism. It is going to be a peer-to-peer system that will be available at a certain zone tier. The way this will work is you have tokens you want to sell. You can literally list them and somebody can come and buy them from you, and you don't even have to impact the open market price. It allows you to do the token sale part without having to even sell it. Okay, this is, again, part of the decentralization of DeFi in that if you have two parties that agree to transfer value, they're free to do that, right? We see this with wallets. People share wallets or exchange value to create more zones or, go into different pools or nodes or all sorts of different things. So this will allow people to say, I am looking to buy a certain number of tokens, and somebody is saying, I'm looking to sell a certain number of tokens. And with a few clicks, you two can transact. Therefore, you are able to sell, they're able to buy, and it doesn't hurt the price of the token, right? So it's just, again, another way of trying to accomplish something that makes the ecosystem healthier and healthier. Just another utility alongside with all of the other utilities that exist. Gavin, what am I missing now? I know you have probably something I'm missing here in this. I'll blame it on my lack of sleep, but what am I missing?
Well, it's not a buffet. It's a smorgasbord. Other than that, you did pretty good.
I'll have you define the difference after the call.
No, I appreciate it. It's beautiful. It's exactly what we're trying to do. And the OTC service, I think, is going to be amazing. Quite frankly, anyone that understands how it works realizes that it's going to be a way for people to have any type of selling pattern that they want, which is ultimately what people want. The whole point is for us to have the ability to earn wealth any way we want. And Zeta, we give you multiple ways to do it. And we've already seen that some people understand how to play the game a little bit better than others. Some people have written roadmaps. Orca Blue, I think, is our own little personal Prima's user guide, writing strategy guides for everybody so you could beat the final bosses. But, I'll speak for you a little bit too, that you and I are both really big fans of Marcus Lemonis, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
He always talks about people, process, product, and he always talks about how ultimately what it comes down to is the ability to value proposition something to where it's good for everybody, right? And so sometimes you have to produce three things: a good product, a better product, and a best product. And with Zeta, some of you have already seen that with what we currently built, there's a best, there's a good, and there's a better. And unfortunately, and again, this is why we had to, and I'll be honest, we learned lessons in real time. We had to lower that barrier to the HFT for everybody because unfortunately it was remaining an abstract concept, these services, because only 5% of the member base was being exposed to them. So unfortunately, we see some folks who have only had the good service who are being told about the better service and they're seeing the best service and they're hearing about it, but they had not been able to experience it. So I hope over the next 30 to 45 days, as folks get to experience sort of the benefits of using these financial services and utilities that we're creating, they'll start to change their selling patterns. And with the OTC service, ideally, it will not matter. That's
Yeah.
the hope. It goes
Yeah.
back to the first question that was asked in the AMA.
You touched on something I want to expand on. We're running at about 37 minutes, so we're going to wrap up here in just a few. Without name dropping, and believe me, I'm tempted to. Without name dropping, there's a lot of projects out there that pretend they know it all. They got it all figured out. You can't tell them anything because they've already done it. They know it. They've lived it. The whole 9 yards. They're perfect. If something goes wrong, it's somebody else's fault. The whole, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've met people like this in real life, but for some reason the crypto projects are just always like that. I don't know why. I have always wanted to be the dumbest person in the room, not the smartest person in the room. And looking at the audience we have here, I think I'm accomplishing that. But there's definitely things I would have done different in Zeta at the day one, right? The HFT tier to or service, excuse me, to multiple tiers is something that I would have done day one if I could redo it again. So I think it's always key to know that be cautious with people who always seem like they know what they're doing and they never are willing to admit a mistake. I'm very cautious of that, and nobody's perfect, and we grow as we move along. And I actually think like that's one of those things that it kind of allowed people to build up a little bit, so they were sort of thrown into the 15% tier just accidentally. Otherwise, they may have not even worked up to that because they were actually going after blue chip. So it's one of those things, just kind of like a happy little surprise. But I just want to make mention of that. Nobody's perfect, and I have not figured out the key to full sanctification yet. So that's a little joke, but anyway, it just to make mention that we're always looking to improve. And it was actually one of your guys' suggestions. Actually, a lot of your suggestions was to open up the HFT to more people. So thank you for that, and continue making those great suggestions because we listen, and I certainly take a lot of them and go to the team and say, hey, people are saying this. What do you think? And we start talking, and sometimes it works. So thanks for that. Power of community. There's something else that's been teased, Gavin. There's been gifts posted. There's been talks of a lake or something. What is going on? People, what is this? People have been saying, I can't wait till Friday to find out what's going on with this. What do you want to tell people? They're all waiting for you.
So I will quell one rumor. It is not a mythical woman who lives in this lake. She is not going to present Brad with a sword that makes him the king of England. I'm gonna nip that one in the bud. So everybody, again, just to kind of piggyback a little bit again with what Showtime just said is we hear you. And one of the things we've heard about with the sell patterns that I talked about is that some people pay their bills with their Zeta coin. I'm not here to judge. I am further from sanctification than even Showtime is. So what I will say is that we have been throwing that idea around the office a little bit. Okay, some people pay their bills. When do bills normally come in? Bi-weekly, monthly, right? The majority of services that we offer have a 90-day lockup period for the principal, or for example, with the Uncharted NFTs that I'll talk about in a little bit, that locks your money up for a while and you lose the ability to control it. But it's sort of a set and forget. So there's an advantage there with not having to actually manipulate anything, with not having to actually do anything. So the profit for effort is lower, all those kind of things, right? Well, the idea was, how can we create a service, right? And because we want to do it sooner rather than later, how can we leverage sort of the tools already at our disposal in order to give our folks something that'll pay them out at the same time that the mortgages do, that the rents do, that the electricities do. For those of you that are in California, PG&E don't play, do they? That's right. So the idea was, how can we do something that's going to be advantageous for the greater Zeta Capital Fund as a whole? That'll be good for the Zeta community as a whole. Just trying to separate the business element with the facts and figures, with the hearts and minds of the community that makes this all work. And how do we do it in a way where there's real money behind it, but we're able to service people with the need that we're hearing? And so what we've done, everybody, is we have created a new service. It is called the Zeta Lake. So for those of you who've already had experience dipping into the pool, what the lake is every 28 days, because Zeta has a 28-day membership cycle. There are 13 cycles per year. Every 28 days, a Zeta Lake is going to open. The Zeta Lake's value, the lake will be open all month long or until the amount that the lake was opened with is filled. The first lake, we're looking at putting $500,000 into it. So it'll be 28 days or 500K, whichever occurs first. Now, the way that the lake is going to work, the thought process is, of course, people are going to put their money in their pools. Everybody wants control over your money. You always want to be able to have that ability to withdraw your funds after 30 days. Well, if there are no pools available, we apologize, but why not throw a few coins to your witcher, and what remains, toss it in the lake. Now, what is the lake? The lake is going to be open for everybody, from 1 zone to 500 zones. Yeah, that's right. Prime members get 500 zones per wallet. Should have bought the pre-sale. So from 1 to 500 zones, wallets will be able to throw their coins into the Zeta Lake. Now, what does the Zeta Lake do? Well, first of all, depending on what your membership level is, that'll dictate where the earmark comes in for your returns. So if you have between 1 and 9 zones, right now, you don't even have access to financial services. So you're going to be treated just like the microzones and the nano zones. You'll be capped at 5% of your principal per month. Okay. Now, if you have 10 plus, but less than 25, you'll get your 10%. And we'll follow the tiers just as they are right now. By the way, if people haven't figured it out, that means that we're going to keep these tiers the way they are for right now. We think they've been very well used. We think they're appreciated, and we don't see any reason to change that right now. So they will be sticking around. So this will be the new normal moving forward. Now, what happens with the lake? Well, when it fills up, those funds will automatically get invested in the HFT. Or if the 28 days comes up, whichever's first, those funds will then be invested in the HFT. What happens is every 30 days, the funds will be withdrawn, and then within a week, airdropped to the wallets that put their coins into them. So hypothetically, if you're the user, I'll walk you through a scenario. You're a Zeta member. You put all your coins in the pools because you love the financial services. You have a few left over because your pool got filled up and there aren't any other ones available. So you want to just go throw it in the Zeta Lake. 30 days later, those funds will start to be, after being invested for 30 days, those funds will then be, the profits will be withdrawn. And then depending on what your membership level was, you will get those profits airdropped to you every month. So every 30 days, you will get an airdrop in USDC stablecoin to your wallet. Month number 2, you put some more coins in there. That means in month 3, you're getting 2 airdrops. And in month 4, you're getting 4. And in month 5, you're getting 5. Guess what you're going to get in month 12? There you go. So that's an idea for us to create a cascading system that's going to pay you the rewards that you're owed every month at nothing that you need to do further than that. Set it and forget it. Yeah. And in 2 years, when you're getting 50,000 airdrops and your accountant hates you, it was Showtime's idea.
There you go. No, actually, ironically, so my son is born. I'm on my way back home. I stop off the pharmacy. I'm in line and I read that they came up with this idea, and literally out loud I said, "Oh my gosh!" Everybody was looking at me like, "What is he doing?" No, I saw it and it was genius, literally genius. So here's kind of an analogy. I'm not a fisher, but this is just the analogy that's coming to mind. You throw a fishing line in to try to catch one fish. Maybe you catch 2. Who knows? I don't know. Probably some of you are better fishers than me. This is more like throwing a net in. Right, this is casting a wide net for a lot of different people to participate with something. There's going to be a cap. Obviously, it's not going to be something that you specifically control on when you withdraw, like a pool. right? But this is a way of you saying, because somebody had brought up the idea, what if we had like a queue system where you put your tokens in? I forget who suggested this, so I apologize, but you put your tokens in, and when a pool was available, it just got deposited automatically. This is sort of like casting a really wide net for you to do something with your tokens while you're waiting for pools, right? So yes, you can sell, but the big argument has been, well, there's no pools open, so I have to sell. Well, now you don't have to, right? Now you're going to have something that, I mean, who knows? We'll see. I think will be open far more frequently than individual pools, just because it's so much larger and encompasses so many more people. That by the time the pools come and go, that reduces tokens, and then by the time the lake comes around, it will reduce even more tokens. And who knows? Maybe we'll even have an ocean someday. We will see. We will see. Time will tell.
You can tell them about the ocean right now. And we're out of time.
No, I'll hold off. I'll hold off about the ocean. We'll see how much bigger we can keep making this body of water over time. Nonetheless, that's kind of it. That, I mean, what do we have? You have anything else to share? I mean, are we done here? What do you think?
Certainly. So the last thing I would share is just to remind everybody that tonight at midnight is going to be the end of the private uncharted sale for Zeta Capital members. So after tonight at midnight, the price of the NFTs will go up. And I believe that they are going to release the next round of the first Uncharted mission to some more communities. And I'm very excited to see how they're received. That team has been crushing it. So Johnny and Mark, my salutations, and you're making me look bad. Slow down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That ends tonight. Look at it sort of like a what is it? Black Friday. My head's I
Blue Friday. It's a purple Friday.
I literally almost said Cyber Monday. That goes to show you where my head is at on a schedule right now. But look at it sort of like the end of the Black Friday sale for the NFTs. They will go up. As a matter of fact, they'll be available only to other communities at that point. So if you want them, I'd recommend you check them out sooner rather than later. I want to give just a real quick update on something I'll be working on just after this. This didn't fit in at the beginning because I forgot. The LP issue that some people have asked about, I'm literally, after this call is over, going to be working on a new ticketing system. So the way this will work is the tickets have been closed ever since we relaunched, as you know, because I had to temporarily close them because there's just an enormous amount of tickets that were opening up on the same thing. And those were tech support tickets, not necessarily LP specific tickets. So it's really muddying the waters. So what I'm going to be doing is creating a whole new ticket. It'll be called like LP ticket or something like that. We'll go in individually and close out the current tickets that are discussing LP issues and ask you to reopen it under the new ticket system so everything's organized. That's kind of step one. We'll be working with people individually to get them their tokens out of the old Radio Shack and Pangolin pools, or excuse me, farms. And then that'll be sort of like a step two process, and then we'll determine what the losses are, and then we will work on a solution for that. So it's a multi-step process. I appreciate you being patient with us. It's a lot of projects I know would not even consider refunding public liquidity pools. So just kind of bear with us, and I do appreciate your patience. I'm going to work on that as soon as this is over, and I'll be posting an announcement. So please be on the lookout for that as well. I do really appreciate the community, especially this last week. I had a lot of people reaching out, hey, how's the baby? Giving me all this kind of advice on being a new dad. And that's just a testament of the community. And I love you guys as well. And that's just something that touched my heart. So thank you for that. And, happy late Thanksgiving. I know in the United States, yesterday was Thanksgiving, so happy late Thanksgiving. Holidays are now upon us. Christmas is, literally right around the corner. Christmas lights, the whole thing, and you're going to be seeing all this stuff that we just discussed coming out very, very shortly. We only have about a week left, or less than a week, give or take, in November, and then we will be moving on to the very last month of the year, where you will start to see the MicroXONs, OTC, Lake. You're going to see probably the Move launch. The Uncharted NFTs will be sold out and activated, and that will actually be on its way to start the airdrops. You're going to see people being able to withdraw from the financial services in the next couple days, and you're going to see everything now come to fruition as we sprint towards the end of this brief, if I could say, marathon in 2022, going into 2023, where we have something really, really special to announce, probably January. I won't even tell you what it is yet, because I'll probably get killed if I do, for Zeta Capital and everything else. So thanks again, guys. This is recorded. We'll be getting this uploaded as soon as possible, hopefully tonight, tomorrow morning at the very latest. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Take care. God bless.